There is some criteria for locating the jack opening. The sides are generally not good because someone can walk by and snap off the jack. In the center, it's not a good idea because you've got the strings that you need to reach, and if the jack is in the way, it's harder to change a string. So here's the location that we have, and it's slightly higher off the ground so that the harpist doesn't accidentally hit it with their foot and damage it. That's Piper. On a harpsichle, we locate it down at the bottom, and we have a template so you can get that and find the location. But it's in this location just slightly off center so it doesn't interfere with the strings and the midrib, and it's slightly forward towards the soundboard so that it can still be fit on an adjustable stand without blocking the jack. When finding the location for the hole on your harp, the back and sides of the harp will have thinner sides like this. On a harpsichle, the end of the sound box will have a thicker block like this. This is 3/4 of an inch or 2 centimeters. If the wood is thicker than 2 centimeters, then you have to find another location. Also make sure that wherever you're drilling that there is no obstruction on the, like this is the outside, there's no obstruction like a brace or something on the inside. That's going to cause trouble when mounting your jack. This is the jack that you'll be installing, and when you're locating the place where you want to drill a hole on your harp, you must remember that this part here is going to be on the inside of the harp. So you want to make sure when it's installed that it doesn't interfere with the midrib or changing of strings. This jack is a little extra long because it contains a preamp, a compressor, and an EQ all in one. If your jack or preamp comes with this thing on the end, this is actually for a guitar, and this is mounted on the end of the guitar, and they screw this on so that it acts as a strap button to hook the strap on. On a harp, you won't be needing this, and on a harpsichle, you won't be needing this because you already have a strap button. So throw this away. Don't put it back on. The reason why you don't want to put it back on and use it is because it's hard to tighten. And if this thing is loose and pushed against the wood of your harp loosely, it will buzz and make a terrible racket when you have your harp plugged in. So don't use this thing, just throw it away. Drilling the hole in your harp, you are going to need a hand drill, and you are also going to need a 1/2 inch or 1.25 millimeter bit. For the demonstration of drilling a hole in your harp, I'm going to use a scrap of wood because this way I can show you what the results are on the inside and the outside of the harp, which you wouldn't be able to see on the actual harp. Once you have found the location where you want to drill the hole in your harp, you need to mark it with an awl or a punch and press down and make sure you get a nice little hole where you want the drill to go. That way it will guide the bit so that when the bit goes into it, the bit won't wander, but will actually spin where you intend the hole to be. Without the little pilot dent, the bit could wander off one way or the other. So make sure you got that hole, that little dent in there, and strong and deep enough that it'll catch the drill. You notice when drilling the hole, you don't want the drill to be going rocket fast, but you don't want it to go slow either. Going too fast, it's not going to grab the wood very well, and it's just going to spin. And going too slow, you can actually catch the wood and it'll stop the drill. So put it at, you can see what I was doing there, and the speed that I was going. Once you're done and the hole's through, you're going to notice here where the drill had come through and has broken some of the wood up. This is why I'm using this piece of scrap wood to show you. And so you got to reach into the harp, and you need to just go back and forth with your hand and thumb or something like that, and just tear out as many of those pieces as possible, because the jack and the preamp is going to be sitting against that, and you're going to have a washer right there, so you want to have it fairly clear. So you're going to have to reach inside the harp and just rub that hole and feel the loose chips and knock them off. Now you're ready to mount the jack. On the jack, you're going to notice here on the end that there are a bunch of washers and there are nuts. Well, you're going to have to take off this one nut, and there's one washer that you're going to take off also, this one right here. The other ones you're going to leave on there because those are going to go on the inside of the harp. And there's a washer and there's a lock washer. The lock washer helps to keep this nut from loosening when it's on the inside and when you're moving the harp around. These washers and nuts are going to stop the jack from going all the way through the harp. And you need to adjust these, thread them so that it just pokes, so that the jack just pokes through like that. So there's just you'll see there's a little hole right there, and that you just need to have that hole just slightly showing, because you will be using that hole. So this one's adjusted for this right now. Now, if you have a bigger piece of wood like this one here, then, and you run it through, you see it's not going to go through. So what you have to do is spin this thing and bring it down farther so that it will take the thicker piece of wood. So you're going to have to put it in and out, and you may be too much, the sticking out too far, and you want it to come back just so the hole just barely comes out like that. So maybe that's sticking out just a little bit too far, and so you just pull it out again, and you make your adjustments on this until the thing sticks out about like that. Here's a cutaway view showing you that when you stick it through the hole, you see it's going to come through like that, and it's going to appear about like that. Now, if you have a thicker piece of wood, or it's not coming out so far, see like this one here, it's just not far enough. So you're going to have to take this nut and spin it more and more and more until it starts to stick out. So you're going to pull it out again. It's not enough. So you're going to have to keep going even more and more. And see, this is 3/4 of an inch, and that's just as far as you can get. So that's why I say you can't go through a block of wood that's more than 3/4 or 2 centimeters thick. So again, we're going back to this now. I've got this adjusted for this thickness of wood, and have it just enough that the hole shows. Not a lot of it showing, but just having it show. The reason for that, if you actually have this coming out too far, then when you tighten it, this little ridge right here may come up to the very outside of your harp, and you won't be able to tighten it anymore because the nut will come right back down on this flange. So you want to have it so that that flange is far enough in, see like right there, that when you put the nut on there, it won't pull that flange all the way up like that. So that's a good position right there. So I'm going to put the washer on, and then we're going to put the nut on, and we're going to hand tighten it. And you see that little lip right there? We want that below the surface here once we get everything tightened. Now when you tighten this up, you're going to start squishing together these washers and the lock washer, and things are going to get a little bit shorter, so this little ridge will start coming up that way. So you want to make sure you've got enough space for that. Now you can see where the hole is right now. The hole is just barely showing, and that's good. Now okay, now we've got the nut hand tightened, and when you're tightening this, you are going to have to reach inside of the harp, and you're going to have to grab this thing and hold it so that you can hand tighten it, and so this thing just won't keep spinning and spinning and spinning. So you have to reach inside and be able to do that, and then hand tighten it. And then you'll have a little bit of the hole, that little hole showing right there. So that's where we're at right now. And then you're going to take a 12 millimeter open box wrench, or you can make it a closed box wrench, either one, and you're going to put it on there and you're going to tighten it. And you're going to have to be holding it back here also while you're doing it. Now, this is where you're going to start using that little tiny hole. You need to take some thin object, a wire, a toothpick or something, and put it into the hole to hold it in place. Now what that is going to do is it's actually connected to this thing, to the jack itself, the preamp, and it's going to hold it in place so you don't have to hold this because you're holding it right there. And then you are going to take your wrench and you are going to tighten this, and it's going to keep getting tighter. And this little thing, whatever it is, you have a toothpick or a ice pick or something in that hole holding it in place, will stay there, and then you can keep tightening this until it's good and firm. You don't want to just keep tightening it so tight that you start cracking the wood and you're finished, but you want it good and firm. Because one of the problems with amplification is that if this part starts to come loose a little bit, then it can start to vibrate. And when it vibrates, it's going to make funny sounds in your amplifier. And if you ever hear a buzzing sound on your harp after you have this installed, the first thing you want to do is to check this nut and make sure that it is tight. And you're done with mounting the jack and the preamp. When you drill the hole for the jack, make sure that it is to the right or the left of the column, so it is not in the way of the mid-ribs and that screw that goes to the column, and locate it slightly towards the soundboard. Once you have the 1/4-inch jack installed, then you're going to take the braided metal wire and you're going to fold it neatly back and forth, because you're only going to use a small amount of that. The rest of the wires are going to be extended throughout the harp. Peel off the adhesive back on the pickup and place it halfway between the midrib and the side of the harp, and locate it in the middle of the last lower octave of the harp. Press hard because the adhesive is pressure sensitive. Once you've pressed it hard, then you are going to take the clip and clip the braided wire that you have put back and forth and the two other wires that are extended farther down the harp. peel off the adhesive and place that on the side of the harp, pressing firmly and making sure that none of the wires are touching the sides. So bend the wires so that they are lifted up from the side or the soundboard. Now, the rest of the wires are going to be threaded up through the harp. On a large harp, it's going to be the same procedure. This is the volume control. We're peeling off the adhesive backing on the volume control, and it's going to go in the access hole at the bottom. And when you place it, make sure that you put it down far enough that the electronics don't show. See, so she's going to just move it down just a little bit where the electronics don't show, and press firmly because it's pressure sensitive adhesive. Now install the battery. And the little battery pouch has a flap on it with Velcro, so you can open and close and remove and put a new battery in when you need to. The little battery pouch has adhesive on it. So she's going to peel off the adhesive. Now you're going to place this on the back of the harp. But you want to place it off to the side so that the battery pack is to the side of the access hole. And with a harpsichord, you're going to put the battery pack so it actually touches the side of the harp. But you're applying it to the back, but it's lined up with the side, like that. The reason for that, if you're going to put in other options like lights and other controls, you want to have the space available to do that. Now she's going to put on the wire clips. And there's the first one. She's going to peel off the little sticky back. She's not going to press it down yet. She's just going to slide it up in there and get it close to the volume control. That's going to be pressed down later once you know exactly where the wires are located. So here's the other clip. Make sure the wires are tight in there. Peel off the adhesive back. And press it down firmly on the side of the harp. Now she's going to do the other one. She's going to move the clip up close to the volume control and adjust the wires so that they don't touch and vibrate against the back or the soundboard. And this is the final clip, and this one's to clip the wire that goes to the battery pack. And you want to make sure that you leave enough space to the right of that, enough length of it, so that you can actually pull the battery out of the pack, change the battery, and put it back. The battery life on our pickups is about 1,000 hours. So now we'll just take a look at the final setup. When you drill the hole for the jack, make sure that it is to the right or the left of the column, so it is not in the way of the mid-ribs and that screw that goes to the column, and locate it slightly towards the soundboard.